On board the Imperial Dreadnought, looming just outside the solar system, Emissary Kovas surveys the screens projecting the blue and green orb of Earth. His features twist in disdain as he considers the upstart species below. He opens a galactic broadcast, his voice smooth and dripping with imperial gravitas. "We come as bearers of mercy, inhabitants of Earth. The Galactic Empire has observed your achievements and, while primitive, we acknowledge your progress. We offer you a place within the Empire as a protected subservient species. Surrender now, or be eradicated." A pause follows. Kovas straightens, waiting for fear or awe. What he receives instead is laughter. Through the broadcast link, human voices cackle, some in the background stifling snorts, and a man's voice breaks through, struggling to compose himself. Did you rehearse that?" he says, barely holding in more laughter. "I mean, points for drama, but really, you sound like a comic book villain." Kovas's expression hardens. He signals the technician to increase audio clarity, certain he misheard, but the laughter only intensifies. A woman's voice chimes in. "So, just to be clear, you want us to surrender? And if we don't, you're going to, send us a strongly worded letter? Invade our planet?" Her tone drips with playful sarcasm. Kovas's nostrils flare. "I assure you, humans, this is no trivial matter. The Galactic Empire has conquered countless systems and commands fleets that have existed longer than your civilization." Another voice, gruff and unfazed, replies, Yeah? You and everyone else. Listen, we've heard this whole galactic overlord routine before. You're just the latest guest trying it. Spoiler alert, we're still here. Now, why don't you pack up and spare yourself the embarrassment?" The transmission crackles with their laughter as they cut off the line. Kovas stands there, staring at the now silent screen, caught in a rare moment of speechlessness. He quickly regains his composure and addresses his officers, his voice cold as ice. "Prepare the fleet. Let these humans witness the might of the Empire. By the end of today, they will understand the folly of defiance." Across the bridge, officers nod in obedience, eager to show these Earth creatures what they're dealing with. Soon, the Imperial fleet is positioned at the edges of the human defense perimeter, an armada of battleships, dreadnoughts, and destroyers surrounding the human forces in a show of overwhelming superiority. From Earth's side, a modest fleet of starships lines up to face the Imperial forces. Kovas can't help but smirk. Compared to the Empire's massive ships, humanity's vessels look downright quaint, some even appearing scavenged or retrofitted. He marvels at their audacity, bringing such insignificant ships to face the most formidable fleet in the galaxy. Through the Empire's communication lines, human voices filter through once again. One chuckles. "Oh wow, did you guys have a garage sale for those ships? Looks like half of them belong in a museum." Kovas grits his teeth as another voice adds, "So many lights and thrusters, are you compensating for something?" The admiral beside Kovas scowls. "These humans have no respect for superior technology. Shall we commence the attack?" Kovas nods. "Yes. Show them the consequences of mocking the Empire." The Empire's fleet launches a precise, coordinated assault, plasma missiles and particle beams slicing through the void toward the human ships. The beams arc toward their targets with ruthless precision, but then something strange happens. The human ships break formation, moving in a chaotic yet calculated dance. They dart, dodge, and even seem to disappear momentarily, slipping through the attacks like liquid. On the bridge, Kovas watches with narrowing eyes, confused by the erratic maneuvers. "What are they doing? Are they attempting random evasive maneuvers?" Another officer mutters. "It's like they're predicting the attacks. Impossible." The Empire's shots, meant to overwhelm with precision, begin to miss, veering wide of their targets. The human ships then respond with a volley of their own, but not with plasma or lasers. Instead, a series of strange bursts of light and distortion ripple across the Empire's fleet. Kovas frowns, watching his own ships go dark on the screen. "Report! What's happening?" The technician frantically works the console. "Some kind of energy pulse. It's interfering with our systems. Kovas stares in disbelief as he realizes what's happening. The humans have developed weapons specifically designed to neutralize their technology. Another voice cuts through the comms from a human ship, dripping with mockery. Don't worry, we're just warming up. Thought we'd play fair and start with light taps before the heavy stuff. Another wave of laughter erupts on the line, human pilots exchanging sarcastic remarks and keeping up a running commentary on the Empire's unimpressive weapons. For every attempt the Empire makes to lock onto a target, the humans evade with a blend of advanced propulsion and sheer audacity. The human fleet appears far less formal, even disorderly by comparison, yet each move counters the Empire's regimented attacks with effortless fluidity. An admiral on Kovas's side mutters in frustration. This is madness. Their pilots act like they're playing a game. The humans clearly enjoy themselves, making jokes at the Empire's expense, each jab digging deeper under the Empire's skin. Kovas's anger simmers as he watches the battle unfold, finding himself unable to comprehend humanity's apparent disregard for danger, their bizarrely effective technology, and, worst of all, their galling laughter. Just then, the human leader breaks into the channel again, now speaking directly to Kovas, his voice filled with mocking warmth. Well, Kovas, we've had a great time, but if this is your ultimate power, we're gonna have to ask you to step it up. We expected something scarier. You know, maybe throw in a few more flashing lights. Really give us a show. The screen goes black as they cut the line, leaving Kovas staring at the silent void with a mix of fury and bewilderment. No species, in all the years he'd served the Empire, had ever treated them like this. These humans weren't terrified, they were toying with the Empire's finest. A junior officer hesitantly speaks up. What should we do? Kovas's face hardens, his voice a low, deadly whisper. Bring in the main fleet. We'll crush this pitiful force and their childish defiance in one sweep. But as the Empire's forces reposition, regroup, and prepare for the next wave, one unsettling thought lingers in the back of Kovas's mind, and he can't shake it. Why are they still laughing? The Imperial dreadnoughts maneuvered, adjusting their positions as the full might of the Empire's fleet ready to obliterate the human forces. Kovas sat back, assured of impending victory, his command staff regrouping. Their ships gleamed, shining beacons of overwhelming power in the black void. The humans would soon learn fear and fall in line like every species before them. But the line from Earth's fleet crackled once more, broadcasting a transmission. The same voice as before, calm but with a threat of mischief, filled the silence on the Imperial bridge. Still sticking with the whole Overlord vibe, huh? Alright, just don't blame us for what comes next. The message cut, leaving Kovas with a brief moment of confused silence, followed by the slow hum of the dreadnought's alert systems, louder and louder. Sensors blared warnings as human ships closed the distance. Despite their smaller size, they held an undeniable energy, a defiance that unsettled even the most seasoned of Kovas's officers. Their speed suddenly doubled, streaking toward the Empire's vessels, each maneuver tighter, more precise. Kovas's patience thinned, an uncharacteristic doubt simmering beneath his calm exterior. He looked to his tactical officer. What is this surge? Unknown, sir, the officer responded, fumbling to regain control of the screens. Their ships are augmenting speed and heat signatures, but our scans can't pinpoint how. Through the flashing displays, human fighters began circling one of the Empire's destroyers. They flickered around it, tracing an intricate pattern while their engines pulsed with a mysterious rhythm. The Empire's weapons system struggled to follow, and for a brief moment, Kovas wondered if they were mocking him with a light show. Then, in one synchronized motion, the human ships fired. The pulse rocked the Empire's destroyer from within, systems surging with catastrophic energy bursts. And with a ripple of explosions down its hull, the Imperial ship splintered into fragments. Kovas clenched his fists, as the same voice returned over the comms, smug. Didn't see that one coming, did you? The Imperial bridge was silent. Kovas inhaled, struggling to contain his outrage. He would not be humiliated by these primitive upstarts. Increase output to the energy shields. Redirect power from secondary systems if necessary. We'll crush them before they reach another target. Across the bridge, his staff worked, rapidly making adjustments. Shields flared and strengthened, layering the Empire's ships with a dense force field, protecting them from the humans' rapid advances. Kovas resumed his stance, watching the tactical displays, assured now of his ship's reinforced security. Human vessels circled back, and once again, they opened fire. For a moment, the Imperial officers almost dared to relax, confident their shields could withstand whatever these upstarts could throw. But their relief was short-lived. The human ships deployed a curious technology, one the Empire had never seen before. Massive beams of dense, synchronized energy began to pulse, each hitting the exact same spot on one dreadnought's shields. The Imperial ship's shield fluctuated as though struck by a coordinated barrage of lasers, before flickering and collapsing in that one spot. In seconds, a breach formed, and the human's weapon struck through. A loud warning blared through the Empire's bridge, vibrations shaking their vessel as another Imperial dreadnought erupted in flames. Kovas's eyes widened. They're targeting weaknesses we didn't know we had. His gaze narrowed as he turned to his officers. I want countermeasures. Activate all defense modes, and jam their signals. Earth's fleet continued their coordinated, relentless assault. And the more they fought, the clearer it became. Each tactic the humans used was innovative, unexpected, and devastatingly effective against the Empire's standard protocols. For the first time, Kovas felt a growing sense of urgency. These humans were no mere nuisances. Each maneuver, every strike, seemed to strike at the Empire's unpreparedness, its reliance on predictable, efficient tactics. But it wasn't only their weaponry. Their communication was different, chaotic in its creativity. The Empire's protocols, meant to overwhelm any opponent, instead became vulnerabilities, shackles the humans exploited with deadly precision. Kovas watched as his highly trained officers began to panic, their expressions showing cracks in the mask of Imperial discipline. One of the human captains patched through the comms again, voice thick with humor. Kovas, I'm starting to think you didn't come here for a real fight. Just some target practice? Another voice chimed in, laughing. You might want to get your repair crews warmed up. We'd hate to send you back looking like you're wearing Swiss cheese. Human laughter crackled across the channel, a sound that made Kovas's stomach twist with unfamiliar discomfort. How could they remain so irreverent in the face of the Empire's strength? His mind raced, pulling at every tactic he'd learned, every strategy the Empire had deployed over centuries. None of it could account for a species that seemed to thrive under pressure, that found humor in adversity. Double the front line, he barked, his voice strained. Send additional fighters. Cut them off. Orders were executed in seconds, additional Imperial ships launching to join the fray. But the humans didn't fall back. Instead, they engaged with relentless precision, somehow anticipating each movement, maneuvering with an unpredictable finesse. For every Imperial ship that managed to fire, a human ship had already countered. For every strategy Kovas deployed, the humans retaliated with an answer he hadn't anticipated. One officer, pale and bewildered, whispered under his breath, "It's like they're toying with us." Kovas slammed his fist against the console, cutting him off. Enough. We'll show them why they're no match for us. But as he spoke, his words felt hollow. The humans weren't behaving like any species the Empire had encountered. This was beyond defiance, it was dominance. An ancient dread crept into the back of his mind, and he was forced to confront a realization he'd never considered before. The humans had prepared for an enemy exactly like him. They weren't a simple species caught off guard. They were a calculated force, revealing just enough to counter each Empire move, yet concealing their full power with every passing second. It was a trap, one he'd unwittingly walked right into. And as he stared at the screen, watching another Imperial ship fall to Earth's offensive, he couldn't deny the cold, hard truth. The humans had planned for this. Imperial forces were shaken. Reports flooded in, each one confirming the unthinkable. The Empire's finest dreadnoughts, some centuries old, were crumbling before Earth's inexplicably agile fleet. Every commander, every officer, every protocol the Empire relied on had failed to bring even a single human ship down. They couldn't predict these tactics, these weapons, this sheer audacity. Kovas clenched his fists, grinding his teeth as he watched human ships close in on yet another Imperial vessel. His confidence was slipping. Every instinct told him this was impossible, that the Empire's supremacy was unquestionable. But the humans had forced him to see it, a different reality, one where they were faster, smarter, and a terrifying step ahead of his every move. With growing frustration, he turned to his second-in-command. "Activate the Exo-Sentinels. If they think they can laugh in the face of the Empire, let's see how they handle the full might of our autonomous destroyers." In response, a wave of sleek, AI-driven ships broke formation, joining the fight. These Exo-Sentinels were legendary throughout the galaxy, used only in the direst conflicts, and capable of relentless precision no organic soldier could match. The Empire had never needed them against a single species before. But this was no ordinary battle, this was an uprising. But as the Sentinels approached, the human fleet shifted, as though anticipating the move. Kovas's eyes narrowed, watching as the humans reconfigured their own formation in response, tightening into smaller, more cohesive units that darted away from the Empire's new deployment. And then, they unleashed something Kovas had never expected, a pulse that turned space itself into a field of interference. The Exo-Sentinels, designed to function seamlessly in predictable conditions, were thrown into disarray. The human captain's laughter filled the comms again, echoing through the silence of the bridge. "So, this is the Empire's finest? Thought you'd at least send something challenging." One of Kovas's officers broke formation, eyes wide as he monitored the feedback from the Exo-Sentinels. "Commander, they're jamming our signal synchronization. The Sentinels they're disabled." The Imperial commander's face turned pale. The Empire's most advanced ships, rendered useless by a trick so simple, so unexpected, it was as if humanity had written the book on how to dismantle Imperial arrogance. Kovas couldn't fathom it. How could they know? How could they turn the Empire's greatest strengths into weaknesses with such ease? Yet there was no time to question it. More human ships advanced, their tactics shifting again, defying Imperial attempts at countermeasures. One by one, Exo-Sentinels fell, either disabled or destroyed outright. Panic began to set in among the Imperial officers, faces that had once reflected unshakable confidence now filled with disbelief. And then the human commander's voice cut through the comms once more, calm and filled with a confidence that should have been impossible for such a primitive species. "We've been watching you, Kovas. Studying your patterns, your protocols. Nice toys you've got, but they're just predictable." Predictable. The word rang in Kovas's mind like a curse. They'd been exposed, an ancient, unbreakable empire undone by its own belief in its superiority. For the first time, Kovas felt the biting edge of fear. He had to regroup, to adapt, to find some way of countering the humans' relentless strategy. "Pull back," he ordered, forcing himself to remain calm. "Rally our forces. We'll draw them into a defensive perimeter and regroup our strength." But the humans weren't waiting. As if they could read his thoughts, they pressed forward, exploiting the Empire's hesitation. More than that, they turned the Empire's tactics against it, maneuvering with an unpredictability that shattered Kovas's carefully constructed strategies. Each attack landed with devastating precision, each defense countered before it could even be completed. Kovas's second-in-command, trembling with disbelief, turned to him. They're anticipating every move, sir. It's as if they've already fought this battle 100 times. Impossible, Kovas whispered. But in his gut he knew it was true. The humans were no ordinary enemy. Somehow, they'd taken centuries of Imperial strategy and reduced it to a playbook, one they'd read cover to cover before this battle even began. The realization was as crushing as it was unthinkable. For the Empire, warfare was an art perfected over millennia, a science few could match. But for these humans, it was something different, something deadly. They weren't bound by tradition or protocol. They adapted, they improvised, they exploited weaknesses the Empire hadn't known it had. And as the human ships closed in, Kovas was forced to face the reality he never once considered. The Empire had grown stagnant, predictable, while humanity had learned to survive on a world that defied survival itself. Earth was a place of chaos, a place that had forced its people to learn, adapt, and evolve at a pace the Empire could never comprehend. Kovas's mind raced, pulling at every strategy, every backup plan he could muster. There had to be a way to turn the tide, to remind these humans of their place. But with each move, the humans stayed one step ahead, countering before he'd even finished issuing his orders. And then, a new voice broke through the comms, a human scientist, calm and almost amused. "You know, Kovas, this might be a good time to mention, we're only using a fraction of our fleet." The words sank in slowly, like poison. Kovas's eyes widened as the weight of it hit him. Only a fraction? That couldn't be possible. The power they were demonstrating, the precision, the strategic mastery, it was enough to rival the Empire's entire fleet, yet they claimed it was but a fraction. "We wanted to give you a fair chance," the scientist continued, his voice laced with a smirk. "Didn't want you feeling completely outmatched." Kovas's hands shook, his composure slipping as he processed the implications. If this was only a fraction, then the full might of humanity's forces was beyond anything the Empire had anticipated, a power that could shake the foundations of the galaxy itself. He was no longer dealing with an upstart species. He was staring into the face of a power that could very well end the Empire as he knew it. For the first time, Kovas considered the unthinkable. "Send the retreat signal," he commanded, voice barely more than a whisper. He could no longer afford pride. The Empire could not afford to lose more of its forces to this force of nature. The humans' laughter followed them as they pulled back, each defeated Imperial ship another trophy in humanity's growing legend. The Empire had met its match, and more than that, it had met an enemy that thrived on the Empire's arrogance, an enemy that laughed in the face of power. As the last of his fleet withdrew, Kovas could feel the laughter echoing in his mind, a haunting reminder of humanity's terrifying, relentless spirit. And he knew, in the depths of his soul, that the galaxy would never be the same. Kovas couldn't escape the shame, or the gnawing realization, he had underestimated them. Earth's death world reputation hadn't been propaganda or primitive superstition, it was lived, woven into the very fabric of humanity's resilience. Every report, every field analysis now proved it beyond doubt. They'd fought species stronger and faster, faced the unknown, and adapted. And now, they had adapted to the Empire's most advanced tactics, weaponizing every mistake he'd made. Word of the defeat spread quickly, seeding doubt and fear through the Empire's upper echelons. Some of Kovas's own advisors questioned if this Death World species might pose an existential threat to the Empire itself. A lowly planet, largely ignored, now commanded the galaxy's attention and respect. They had to find a way to contain this threat before it grew beyond control. Gathered in the Imperial War Chamber, Kovas and his commanders stood before the Empress, who sat as an unshakable pillar of the Empire's power. Her gaze was cold, calculating, and for the first time, Kovas felt the weight of failure hang like a blade above him. "The humans have shown remarkable adaptability," one of the science advisors began, voice tense with anxiety. "Their warfare isn't just calculated, it's instinctual. They use strategies we hadn't even considered, exploiting flaws we didn't know we had." The Empress's voice cut through, sharp and unforgiving. "Flaws we should have known. They took down a force we deemed unbeatable. Now, I have the galaxy questioning the strength of its rulers. I want solutions, not excuses." Kovas felt his pulse quicken. He'd reviewed the human strategies a dozen times, each move a calculated counter to Imperial strengths. But the real threat wasn't just their technology or adaptability, it was their audacity. They fought like nothing mattered except the next battle, the next victory. They faced annihilation without hesitation, while every move the Empire made was cautious, deliberate. The humans were dangerous because they didn't fear the Empire. They thrived under pressure. One commander suggested an overwhelming display of force. Bring in every warship, every weapon, to obliterate humanity from existence. But Kovas knew better now. Such a move would expose even more of their weaknesses, inviting more scrutiny, more doubts. He had to think differently, to match the humans' own unpredictability. We can't treat them like any other species, Kovas said finally, his voice steady despite the tension filling the room. Our tactics must adapt to theirs. We need to employ agents to observe, infiltrate, and learn their strategies, their weaknesses. We need their resilience. The Empress's eyes narrowed. You would suggest we stoop to espionage? That we learn from them? Kovas chose his words carefully. They exposed our vulnerabilities. To destroy them, we must first understand them. They are like no other species, and we have underestimated them at every turn. Silence hung in the room. The suggestion was radical, a stark departure from the Empire's standard approach. Yet they all knew that traditional methods had failed spectacularly. Humanity had forced them to question the very core of their approach. The Empress's fingers drummed lightly on the arm of her throne. Very well. But you are responsible, Kovas. Should you fail, our mercy will not extend to you a second time. He bowed, feeling the full weight of her words. Failure would mean more than disgrace. It would mean the end. But he could not let fear dictate his actions. He had seen enough of humanity to know they thrived on that very fuel, that they had already surpassed the Empire by rejecting hesitation. He returned to the command center, already drafting his plans. Hand-picked soldiers, trained in espionage and infiltration, would observe humanity from within. They would study the ways these Deathworlders survived and fought. Kovas would know every detail of their history, their psychology, their vulnerabilities. Only then could the Empire adapt. Only then could it defeat humanity. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, humanity was preparing too. News of the Empire's retreat rippled through Earth's military and political echelons. They had bought themselves time, and they would use every second of it. The Deathworlders had tasted victory, but they knew they'd only scratched the surface of the Empire's might. While the Empire planned in shadows, humanity was building openly, transforming Earth and her allies into a formidable alliance. Humanity's leaders met in a fortified bunker, a place built with every worst-case scenario in mind. Generals, scientists, strategists, each contributed to an evolving strategy of defense and preemption. They knew the Empire's pride was wounded and that it wouldn't rest until Earth was brought to heel. But humanity was determined not just to survive, but to turn every assault into an opportunity, every setback into a springboard. We've shaken them, said General Ramirez, her voice filled with a quiet confidence. They don't understand us yet. And that's our advantage. We won't give them a chance to catch up. They discussed potential alliances, species within the Empire who might harbor resentment, who might be willing to join a rebellion. Humanity's gift for coalition building would serve them well here, forming alliances the Empire would never suspect. Every resource was aimed at turning Earth into an indomitable force, every failure of the Empire analyzed, every strength of humanity amplified. We're not fighting for just Earth, Ramirez reminded the group. We're fighting for every species they've oppressed, every world they've crushed under their heel. Kovas's infiltration plans were already underway, but the humans were prepared for it. Unknown to him, Earth's forces had already laid traps within their own ranks, planting misinformation, creating false weaknesses, and staging rehearsals. Every infiltration attempt would feed the Empire only what Earth wanted them to see. As months passed, small skirmishes erupted. Each one was a calculated move, drawing the Empire deeper into a web of human strategy, leading them to underestimate or miscalculate. Human analysts picked apart Imperial tactics, embedding weaknesses and anticipating responses. The war was not just on the battlefield, it was a contest of wits, of relentless adaptation. The Empire's spies sent back reports, but the information was fragmented, the details skewed. One officer grew suspicious, seeing the same human unit appear repeatedly in different parts of the galaxy. But before the suspicion could solidify, the agent went silent, another casualty in humanity's web of counterintelligence. Kovas watched each skirmish closely, and each time, he felt an unsettling sensation gnaw at him. Somehow, even when the Empire won, it felt hollow, as if they were striking shadows. Humanity's defiance was a slow, creeping poison, sapping the Empire's resolve and exposing fractures in their once unified front. In the imperial capital, unrest grew. Many species under the Empire's rule began to question its infallibility, whispering that if even a single world could stand against them, perhaps the Empire wasn't the unstoppable force it claimed to be. Rebellion simmered, its embers stoked by stories of Earth's defiance. And amidst the turmoil, Kovas understood the truth. Humanity had become a symbol, a spark that was already spreading beyond control. They had adapted beyond any threat he had faced, turning the Empire's might against it with every step. For the first time, he felt something more unsettling than defeat, a dawning respect for a people he had once scorned. 2 of 2.